Legend has it that around about 1600 years ago, King Arthur was seeing off the Saxons and assembling his round table and, of course, constructing the castle of Camelot. Trouble is, we can't find it. Nobody knows where Camelot was built, or in fact, if it was ever built at all. Round about the same time, here in Ireland, legend has it, St. Patrick was casting out Satan and serpents and converting the local warrior kings to the new religion, including here at Cashel. And those warrior kings, well, they did build their Camelot. And we know because it's still standing, rising from the rock of Cashel and towering over the Golden Valley in all directions. And if you were to climb the tower behind me, 100 foot high, 1,000 years old, and look due southeast from one of those top windows, you should be able to make out the walls of Ballydoyle. And behind those walls, another Camelot is rising. Just like the tower here, this Camelot is real. And just like those old warrior kings, depending what happens in his next defining battle, he could become a legend.
Here's Camelot now, the power jacket. And Camelot and just run right. It's going to stay out the win the derby. They swept through for an easy victory. Camelot, the winner of the 147th running of the Irish Derby, and the winning combination, father and son of Aidan O'Brien, who is winning his 10th, his 7th in a row, and his son Joseph on board. Will you welcome, please, the winner, Camelot.
Well, that's enough history, I think. Let's go and see what people think now. Let's go and ask the locals if they're ready to welcome another local hero, another Triple Crown winner.
He's proved it all year that he's himself and Frankel are two magnificent horses, and probably thank God they've never competed against each other because they're two good horses in the one era. But no, it would be huge. The Triple Crown, it's a long, long time since it was done, and hopefully he'll do it.
It won't be done too often. You know, it's 42 years since it was done before, so I couldn't see, you know, that's a long time, and there was a lot of good horses in between and they couldn't do it. Maybe they didn't try, but I have no doubt that this horse will do it.
We expect him to win it. I think he'll win it, and I think it'll be a short price, but a lot of people work at the stable out there, from work hands to jockeys to people who ride out. So every victory for Camelot or any of Aidan O'Brien's horses is very popular here in Cashel.
So the locals are confident. Around here they remember the last horse to do it, the mighty Nijinsky. The horse is the stuff of legend and his trainer revered. Dr. Vincent O'Brien casts a long shadow. His statue dominates the village of Rose Green up the road from the Ballydoyle base he made famous. Even the local school children here can tell you who Nijinsky was. The local playing field and the village hall, after all, are named after him. And racing is in the veins of this local community. The O'Brien children attended the local primary school, where I asked Principal John LALOR what kind of student Camelot's young pilot Joseph was.
He was an excellent student, just like all his sisters. His sister Sarah, who's taken to the horse riding seriously at the moment, and Anna came to the school, and the last representative of the O'Brien family was Donica, who left about 2 years ago.
Some people say, because these kids are riding every morning, were they able to do both?
He was well able to do both, but I'd say his love was definitely riding. That was it, and the horses.
If Camelot were to win the Triple Crown, it'd be a big deal for a lot of these families.
Well, all I could say is a lot of the parents work down there, so I hope Camelot does the business, as they say.
So here we are outside the gates of Ballydoyle. Let's go through them, where Aidan O'Brien is waiting to tell us whether the Triple Crown is indeed on. Actually, tell you what, let's do this properly. Let's go back. Because the legend of this Camelot doesn't actually begin here. It begins back in the land of Arthur, back in Britain, here at Highclere Stud.
It was here at Highclere Stud that bloodstock mastermind John Warren worked with owner Sheikh Abdullah bin Issa Al Khalifa to plot one of the great matings of all time, involving a family that John Warren knows going back 4 generations.
When I bought Camelot's great-great-granddam at auction, and she produced a filly foal who we called Fade. We bred Fade to Danehill, and a filly was born from that mating called Fickle, coveted by King Mambo. She produced a beautiful filly, and that filly was called Tafa, and that is Camelot's dam. And we came up with the idea of sending Tafa to Mongeur. And of course, Mongeur has this incredible ability to be a top stallion based on the fact that he's a 1.5 mile horse with some wonderful, highly charged spirit in the makeup of the offspring. So the great makeup and mix and intrigue of the Camelot story now is all coming into fruition, if you like, having that incredible speed through Danehill and King Mambo on the female family, with the brilliance of Mongeur, who is out of Floripides, who was a 1.75 mile filly, and Mongeur, of course, was by Sadler's Wells. So all these components of this pedigree have all started to come together to create what I think is regarded as one of the most versatile great horses that we've seen since Nijinsky.
So a perfect pedigree on paper, but would the foal himself turn out to be the real deal?
It was blatantly obvious that he had tremendous class and style, so that he developed into a magnificent yearling. At that point, I suppose, analysing his looks that actually fitted with the page was something that started to flag up to us as him being probably our highest price yearling when he went to the October sales.
This perfect specimen, so beautifully bred, was unsurprisingly the subject of frenzied bidding when auctioned at Tattersall's. He finally sold for 525,000 guineas. Coolmore's Demi O'Brien, the winning bidder, which meant, of course, that this colt would be trained at Ballydoyle by Aidan O'Brien. We return then to Ballydoyle and begin by asking Aidan if he knew what type of an animal was about to arrive at his yard.
Like, they always rated this horse very special. I suppose more special than any horse has come in here before. I remember at the sales, when we went over to see him, it was just when we landed, there was only one horse, being spoken about, and it was nearly as if you were afraid to go down into the sales ring, but that's the regard they held him all the time, so he was, I suppose, one of those horses kind of nearly too good looking to be true, really.
What do you mean when you say that? Because, I mean, you've seen hundreds and hundreds of young horses, and as you say, lots of people who saw him when he was a yearling said he's put together in the white. What does that mean? What did you see in that horse?
Yes, I suppose he was obviously, being a colt, he was you'd call him very handsome, great movement, great quality, very intelligent looking, and he had all the right things in the right places, and just very unique horse, really.
I was going to say, how rare is that? How many? Because lots come with big reputations. Lots of your horses are going to be very well bred. Lots will have made a lot of money as yearlings. But how rare is it to see one who's physically put together the way Camelot was?
I suppose very rare. Like you said, we get a lot of very good-looking, well-bred horses. We're very lucky that that's what the lads kind of buy and assemble and put together from the time they're babies. But I suppose he was just. I suppose his movement was very different. He moved more like a dressage horse than a race horse, which was very unique, and usually horses that move like that, like I said, are too good looking to be, too perfect to be true.
So, he had the reputation, the looks, the price tag and the name. But how would Camelot respond to the rigours of training?
He passed all the tests all along, I suppose, really. Like every other horse, they go through different tests and they have to pass them or not, but he kept passing them, which was very unusual. He never failed one, and I suppose maybe that's why Sue called him Camelot. I think Sue had that name waiting for 10 years. So, like obviously, like we had been giving Sue the information all the time, and she was making her own mind up as she went along. But I don't really know how she came to call him Camelot. But like we knew that name was there for a long time, and I suppose when we saw him being named Camelot, we thought maybe this is the end of passing of the tests. He was going to start failing when that name was put on him. But obviously, we were very lucky he didn't really. He was like obviously very special, Sean, all the way.
You thought you might have been tempting fate a little bit, did you, when you put the name Camelot on this horse?
Absolutely. Well, listen, obviously that's not like Sue does that, but like Sue had been talking about this name for a long time, over a lot of years, and I think the last time we won the Derby was 10 years back, and I suppose like obviously she saw him herself and listened to what everybody was saying, and listen, it's I suppose the rest is history.
Camelot's 2-year-old career would consist of just 2 starts. A Leopardstown maiden in July,
Camelot wins by 2 lengths from All Approved, second, close for third.
and then much later in the season, in October, a tilt at the top 2-year-old prize of the Group 1 Racing Post Trophy at Doncaster.
Obviously we thought he was very nice going to Leopardstown, and Joseph had been riding him in his work, and Kanami in his canters, and like they were very happy. Joseph was very happy, very confident going to Leopardstown, and he dropped him right out, and he came through and won very easy. I remember he was very impressed with him, very excited, and I suppose the only worry we had for the type of horse he was, he had arrived and had won his maiden too early, so we didn't really know what to do then, so we chanced giving him a break. It can be often dangerous because often you don't get back there, so obviously going to because we gave him a good long break, we thought like we maybe had given him too much time off going to Doncaster, and he thrived like when he got the break, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen going to Doncaster, but his work was exceptional. His speed figures at home were brilliant. Everything, all the information on him was absolutely tip-top, like we haven't seen before, but like obviously then they have to go and do it. Then I suppose he went to Doncaster and Joseph dropped him right out again, so obviously we were going to find out a lot then, but like we saw, I suppose the rest of that was history.
Here's Camelot now, the purple jacket, fencing the far side, and it's Camelot the favourite with Joseph O'Brien, who's swept through to an easy victory in the Racing Post Trophy. He's won in a couple of lengths, hard held.
History, indeed. Camelot's win was one of the most dazzling displays ever seen in the race. It cemented his position as anti-post favourite for the Derby. But Connections had an even more ambitious plan. The colt would make his 3-year-old reappearance not in a Derby trial, but in the first classic of the season, the 2,000 guineas at Newmarket. A brave decision, and a tortuous one for the trainer.
It was a big decision, obviously, and like he was a Racing Post Trophy winner, and they don't usually turn up in the guineas, or if they do, the results are usually not great. He was by Montju, which never had a mile winner over as a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old never won a mile Group 1, I think, and it was the classic first time. Like it was a massive decision, really. Listen, it's one that I like. Obviously, look, we wouldn't have been able to make, but listen, the lads made the decision, and it was amazing. Like it was. Joseph knew what way he was going to ride him, and I suppose all those things were more worrying for me because we hadn't dipped him for speed. He'd been half speeding at home before the guineas all the time. So listen, he was really going to the guineas ready for a real good piece of work, really.
Some piece of work. It saw Camelot reel in a classic field to land the 2,000 guineas. Next stop would be Epsom, and a career-defining attempt at the ultimate classic test, the Derby.
Everything went well to Epsom as well, and we were happy with him going there. Listen, obviously he'd been ridden back in all his races, so I presumed that was the way it was going to be again. So we walked the track, and it was beautiful ground in Epsom. Listen, obviously it was only his second run of the season, so I suppose he was green. I don't think he'd ever raced around a bend before Epsom. And I remember the first minute I met Joseph after the race, he said this horse is very green today, So I suppose it Epsom is an unusual track to be running in Epsom first time on a bend. Like obviously had worked around the bend here, but never at the kind of pace and the fractions they'd be running in Epsom or meeting those kind of contours before. So he came down the straight, and I think he took a little bit of time to find the stride when he straightened up, but when he found it, I think the furlong and a half, like he just kicked into overgear, you know. So I suppose, listen, it was one of those unbelievably special days for us all.
They're racing inside the final 150 yards, and Camelot and Joseph O'Brien is going to stay on to win the Derby, for in second place Bonus C.
Loyalty to the horse's Irish fans saw him take in the Irish Derby in terrible conditions at the Curragh, before once again talk would return to the Triple Crown. The chance to walk in Nijinsky's footprints, the chance to become a legend, was on.
Actually, listen, it would be just incredible, really, Sean, for us and everybody involved, really. I suppose I couldn't put it into words what it would mean, really, but it would be just something unbelievably special.
Where would it put Camelot in the scheme of things? We play this game all the time, trying to work out which is the best horse when and over generations. Where does it put him in the scheme of things compared to, for example, the other horses you've had, your other Derby winners, for example?
This horse is very different. Sean always was. Obviously, I suppose, those just very incredible, very unique, different horses come along in people's lifetime, and this horse is like something that haven't had before, you know. So just very unique, incredible, like something you can't really think about, really. Listen, it's very, very difficult test. Like for a horse that was able to be dropped out in the Guineas over a mile his first run of the season, and all our horses running very ordinary at the time, to have that kind of pace, and then he won in Epsom. It's testing him. It's a massive test. You know, it's like all we can do is hopefully turn up on the day, and hopefully we'll have him ready for the test, you know. But it's a massive test. He's the most incredible horse that we have had since we started, you know. And it's just all the way along. He's obviously been like that before he came to us, and I think probably from the time he was born, it was something very different. And we're just so grateful and feel so privileged to have him, really, and to have him to look at and see him every day, you know. It's something that we'll never forget.